Hello, and thank you for joining the Werner podcast on iCode Media. Today I reminisce and ruminate about a podcast episode that I listened to from my good friend Lori Sorensen on risk and change, and share my thoughts and an observation I had on a recent flight. I want to hear from you, so please join the conversation by leaving a comment, sharing the conversation with a friend, and of course leaving a 5-star review. Also be sure to support those who support us. This year, we proudly introduced the Life Meter to our practice in response to our staff's passionate demand for enhanced patient care. Their firsthand experience with the Life Meter underscored the crucial link between proper diet, carotenoid supplementation, and visual health and performance. Our front desk team now measures every patient's skin carotenoid levels, providing valuable education on each score and the significance of carotenoids in ocular performance and health. The result? Patients love the enhanced experience, and our MacuHealth sales have doubled since implementing Life Meter. To discover more, contact your MacuHealth representative or click on the link in the show notes. Recently, a friend and mentor of mine, Dr. Lori Sorensen, was on a podcast talking about risk and how she manages risk. And that got me thinking. Lori has one of the largest practices, single location practices that I'm aware of, and certainly one of the most successful optometry practices in the country. And one of the things that I truly love about Lori is also one of the things that I believe has made her so successful, and that is that she is not afraid to try new things, and certainly not afraid to challenge the status quo. Lori isn't okay with just being successful. Lori needs to be more successful, and for her it's not a monetary thing, but a drive to do better, and a drive to try new things, a drive to provide better for her patients, to provide better for her team, and she just loves to challenge with a goal of improvement. And that's I love talking with Lori. I love hearing and listening to Lori speak because of that quality that she has. Now, previously on the podcast, I've talked about my office having 3 core values that really drive all of our decision making and actions. I don't like mission statements, but I do really like these core values. And those values are quality care, individual responsibility, and change. Today I thought I'd talk a little bit about change, partly because I listened to Lori's podcast on a recent flight that I had, and had some observations on that flight that I would like to share. But first I want to talk about how I view change. We used to call our core value positive change, but what was interesting is that word positive in there really slowed us down, because we were so worried about the change having a net positive impact on the practice that we were stuck with analysis paralysis. We looked at all of the variables, trying to make sure that we capitalized on all the positives, and we tried to minimize any negatives. We wanted to make sure that it was the right thing to do, and that we had thought through everything before we put the change into effect. So we were stuck not pulling the trigger, if you will, because we were too busy analyzing. And so we dropped the word positive, and now our core value is just change. Now, of course, we're always trying to have positive change. I think that's the goal, but I didn't want to slow us down through that analysis paralysis. Sometimes you just have to make a decision to change things and take some risks, not willy-nilly. There's a system we have in place, but you've got to just try. And the biggest difference between a good decision and a bad decision, or a good direction rather and a bad direction, is just another decision, right? If we implement something that is not working out how we'd like, we can certainly make a different decision and change again. So we're constantly looking to do better and get better. So you've got to just jump in the deep end, maybe not knowing if things will work out how you planned or not. And if your experience is anything like mine, they really never work out how I planned them. In fact, most of the time they work out a whole lot better. So when we talk about change in the office, we talk about taking risks and really making the decisions with that goal and that vision of constantly improving. So one of the things that we do to make sure that those changes are implemented successfully is we've got a system. Now, I believe that everybody has systems, and most of our systems, if they weren't put into place with focus and effort and time, then those systems probably aren't very good, but everybody has a system. And so we've taken time to constantly reevaluate our systems. And our system now, when we look to put something into place, make a change in the office, is this. We have a goal on what the outcome will be. We don't necessarily plan the steps or the journey, but we have a goal of the outcome. Think of a trip. I want to get from San Diego to Chicago. So the outcome is getting to Chicago in the most efficient and timely manner. It could be I want to get to Chicago and enjoy the route and stop at a bunch of different places along the way and enjoy the journey. Two very different outcomes. One is getting to Chicago efficiently and quickly. The other is enjoying the journey along the way. But we want to make sure, whatever that case is, that we've got a very clear outcome. And then we want to establish what the metrics or KPIs that we can monitor that progression towards that outcome. So if I'm looking to get to Chicago in the most efficient way possible, I want to see, well, what's the different time frames I can get there in, how fast can I get there. If I want to enjoy the trip, well, maybe I need to look at different opportunities and things to see along the way. And so we want to make sure we've got really clear measurables that we can judge our success on, because emotion can toy with us sometimes, and we want to make sure that we don't ignore the emotion, but we certainly look at the numbers or the measurables that can't lie to us, to make sure that we're on the right track. And if we're not, it tells us where we can improve and where our opportunities are. We also want to make sure that ahead of time we've set time out to and schedule time to stop and really evaluate the metrics and how we're doing along the way with implementing this change. And if we don't set that time up, it doesn't happen. So we want to schedule that time. No different than a patient that has glaucoma that we've put on drops. We need to bring them back to make sure that the drops are working. We need to schedule time to verify and take those measurements. So when we implement change in the practice too, we need to set that time and schedule that time ahead of time. Now, once we've got a clear goal on what we want the outcome to be, what our measurables or our KPIs are, and we've got a time frame not only to implement that goal, but time along the way to set and evaluate how we are in the journey. We bring in everybody that's going to be a part of that process, everybody that involves, all the team members that involves, and we ask them to develop the roadmap. We don't give them the roadmap and say this is how we're going to do it. We give them the outcome and the measurables, and we ask them to really develop how we get to that outcome we want, how we get that positive net effect. And I think this does a couple of things for us. One, this leverages the strengths of the team and really gives us a lot of critical insight from those that are on the front lines, from those that are doing it day in and day out. If I'm implementing something in the optical, I don't sell glasses. I don't run through the process. I don't collect the money or charge out or calculate the managed vision care benefits. My opticians do that. My team does that. So I want to make sure that they have a really good input into what that outcome looks like, or what that process looks like, rather, not the outcome. I've established the outcome, but what that process looks like, because they know the pitfalls, they know what's going to work better, because they're doing it day in and day out. It also gives them ownership. If they're developing the roadmap, if they're developing the plan of action, they take responsibility because they had a part in developing it. It's them. It's part of it. It's their little baby. And so it helps give them ownership, and it certainly helps with buy-in. Now, we get buy-in no matter what, because at the end of the day, as owners of the practice, we've decided this is what we're going to do. But buy-in by force doesn't by any means give us the outcomes and the emotional buy-in that buying in by having them help develop the process and develop the roadmap does. So we really want to involve them. We also involve them in those meetings with the looking at the KPIs and the measurables along the way. And we tell them what those measurables are. So we've got the expectations. They know what they're going to be held accountable for, and what a win looks like, and what not winning looks like. We also allow for some complaining. Anytime we implement change, it's never easy. As humans, I think we are wired to appreciate the status quo. And so whenever there's change, there's always some negative feelings around it. So we certainly allow time for those feelings to be expressed and shared. And we want to make sure that everyone's on the same page, and so they all get a chance to express their feelings, positive and negative. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we go forward as a unified team to implement that change. So where does my observation from my recent flight come in? So after I listened to Lori's podcast, I was deboarding the plane in Denver. I'd never really paid attention to the folks that clean the plane, but I did this particular time, and noticed that there were 8 individuals who were helping to clean the plane. And what struck me was the way they were doing it. They were doing a very good job of not getting in the way of all the passengers deplaning. Most of us had connecting flights, and so getting off your plane is very important and can be stressful and nerve-wracking. But what I noticed was that the first 4 individuals that were cleaning the plane, 2 on each side, were going into each row and just pulling the trash out of the seat back pockets in front of them and putting the trash on the seat. That's all they were doing, going into each of the seat back pockets, pulling out the trash, putting them on the seat, and then leapfrogging rows. And they were doing this pretty efficiently and pretty quickly, and all while making sure they stood out of the way of those of us getting off the plane. Behind those 4 individuals, 2 on each side, there were 2 more people, and they just had a bag. And they were going down the rows, picking up the trash that was on the seat and putting it into the trash bag. And they would do one row, and then they would do the next row and the next row. And then behind them, the last 2 individuals, 1 on each side of the plane, had the little stick vacuums, little Dyson-like vacuums that were vacuuming the floors as needed and going down. Now, if you would have asked me to develop a plan to clean the plane, I think I would have given all 8 people, or at least 6 of those, a bag and said, just go start picking up trash. And then the last 2 would come through with their vacuums. I would never have thought to have half my team just pulling out trash from behind the seat pockets and setting it up, doing what they were doing. I was struck by that, and what struck me by it was that this team probably developed that system on their own. Now, in future flights, I'm going to be watching to see if that's the case, if other cleaning crews operate the same way. But I was really impressed by how efficient this team worked together, and I'm curious how they developed that system. One of the other things I noticed was how every person seemed to know exactly what their role was. There really wasn't talking amongst them as far as directing on roles. They were chatting as coworkers chat, but not telling each other what to do. And they were trusting each other. Those that were picking up the trash and putting it in the bag weren't looking in the seat back pockets to make sure that the team ahead of them hadn't missed anything. They were trusting that they got it all done. So I really thought that was a kind of a neat observation, and it made me question, have we done enough to optimize what we do in our practice? Now, one of the things that I like to do in the practice, and I'm sure it bothers all of our new team members for the first little bit until they understand the system, is to ask questions. And one of my favorite questions to ask is simply, why are we doing it this way? Whatever the task is, why are we doing it that way? Does it make sense? Does it make sense to do it the way that we're doing it? And quite often the answer used to be, well, this is how I was taught, or this is how we've always done it. And I've learned that both of those answers are not very good answers because it doesn't show a deeper understanding of why we're doing the task the way we're doing it. So when I ask why are we doing it this way, what I'm looking for, in addition to does it make sense, is there a better way to do it? Is there a more efficient way to do it? Is there a more practical way to do it? Is there a way to do it that just helps us with time? Is there a way to do it leveraging technology that we might not have had, a few years ago, a few months ago? Are there new strategies that we can put into place? Is what we're doing now being received by our patients the same way as it used to be received by our patients? I think that previously, I'm going back decades now, patients came in and liked to spend time and talk. That's where we were one of their social connections for a lot of patients. Well, with everybody having a smartphone and social media, they don't need us for a social connection anymore, at least not how they used to. Time and efficiencies seem to be more taxing. We all seem to have less time to do things, and maybe when a patient anticipated before spending a full hour in the practice, perhaps now they're only looking to spend 45 minutes or so in the practice, and we need to make sure that we're maximizing all of the efficiencies. We've also added a lot of new diagnostic testing, screening testing in the practice, and what used to be a 5 or 6 minute pretest when I was a kid and working for Dad, where we took an Optos picture and an autorefractor and maybe stereo and color vision. Now we've added a ton more testing to the pretest process, which is great for the patient. We're able to see more and pick up on more and help them have a higher quality of life, but it also takes more time. So are we doing those processes in a more efficient manner? Are we ordering glasses in a more efficient manner? All of those different processes that we have. And so the simple question of why are we doing it this way and does it make sense really has helped us look at all the different aspects of the practice to see what we can be doing better. And we've empowered our team to answer that question honestly. If there is a better way, then let's look at it. And if you have a better idea, let's evaluate it. And let's put it into practice. Let's make that change based upon the principles that we had talked about previously. And most of the time, it's a very positive outcome. Now, sometimes it's not, and that's okay. Because if trying a different way doesn't work out as well, then we know the way we've been doing it still is the best way that we've come across. I think that one of the things that certainly I love about Lori and lots of other mentors that I have, and one of the reasons I believe that we're so successful at our practice, is because we're constantly looking for that better way. We're looking for that next edge. It not only keeps things fun and exciting for us, but it's also fun and exciting for patients. They like to see the change. They like to see the updates or what's new. It doesn't have to be huge, but just what's new, what's different. It could be a fresh coat of paint. It could be the life meter that we just implemented at the front desk, which is another great example of change. In fact, that whole change was developed by my team, who said, we absolutely want this technology in the practice. And so we brought it to them. We talked through what it does, the importance of measuring skin carotenoid levels and how that affects both the retina and overall general health, and help them develop their own processes, help them develop a system on where they wanted to pre-test everyone or test everyone with the life meter. In our case, it was at the front desk. What that language looked like, how they were able to educate patients and make it a part of the positive experience. Did we make changes along the way? Absolutely. But those were changes and slight deviations to the process and improvements to the process came because we set time to measure what we had implemented. We had set clear goals, we set clear outcomes, and we're still constantly refining that process and others. So one of the things that I really like about our value of constant change and involving the team is the individual growth we see, the professional development we see within our team members, and how for them optometry and working in the practice has gone from being a job to being a career. When they're part of the process to create change, part of the process to drive improvements, they no longer are just showing up for a paycheck. They're there for a purpose. And I'd like to say that I can give them a purpose, and that's helping patients see better and be healthier, but they really have to internalize that purpose. And so for them, it may be those. It may be that they're able to test more patients and educate patients with the life meter and learn more about the importance of carotenoids in a healthy diet. Maybe they just like the success and the feeling of success when they've been the champion and leader of implementing a new program. Maybe it's learning a new skill set that they were able to do. Maybe it's having a goal and achieving that goal. No different than any athlete, a soccer player. They play the same game day in and day out, but winning it drives them, scoring goals or saving goals. And so optician can sell glasses every day, but if they can sell more glasses, or they can incorporate new technologies and embrace the new technologies and help educate patients with those, it becomes an internal challenge that they have, that they can feel that success of winning on. So I'm curious to hear from you how you implement change in your practice, which you look at change. Are you looking to implement change in the practice, or is your system designed around being happy and maximizing status quo? I'm always looking to do better. Hope you are too. So please share your comments. Let me know what you think about implementing change in your practice, and look forward to next week.